Hey everybody, Rusty Buckets here with my Bucks 2 cents of the week. Listen, it's another week of chaotic college football. We had this day circled and it lived up to the hype. We had more frauds teased out. Last week it was Missouri. This week I think it's Alabama and Ole Miss. And I tell you, I think next week we're going to find out more. There's just so much good things happening in college football right now. My Mississippi State Bulldogs look like a competitive team. We'll get to those here in a minute. But the day started early. South Carolina gave Alabama everything they wanted. And I think it's time we have a conversation about, is Alabama as good as we think they are? Listen, I'm guilty. I bought into the hype after the Georgia game. Yeah, they got beat by Vandy the next week in the ultimate trap game, but they did not look good yesterday against South Carolina. And if it wasn't for a few fluky little things going their way, they get beat again in back-to-back weeks. Look, I get it. There's going to be changes. There's going to be a lot of growing pains with a new coach and a new regime, particularly when you lose somebody like Nick Saban. But that product is not competitive that they're putting out right now. It's ugly, matter of fact. They got to figure it out this coming weekend. They play a Tennessee team who is also reeling. Tennessee won an ugly game over Billy Napier and the Florida Gators. Took them overtime to beat them. It's a rivalry game. I know kooky things happen. But Nico Amalavea is just not stepping up big moments, and Heupel has gone dormant with his play calling. For all of the all gas, no breaks they had last year, winning boldly against Alabama and these big wins that they had, they're doing none of that this year. And I've had to talk a couple UT friends off the ledge about Heupel. Like, the last thing you need to do is run him off. But I agree, he's got to get out of some of this vanilla play calling if they're going to be one of the top 12 teams at the end of the year. They got a real good opportunity this weekend again against that Alabama team who is also reeling. One of these teams is going to have to figure out an offensive identity, figure out how not to turn the football over, and see who can step on the gas and go. We had an incredible candidate for game of the year last night as well. You know, we had Alabama, Georgia a couple of weeks ago, thought that's the game of the year. And then Oregon and Ohio State happened last night. Autzen was rocking uniform porn as well, right? Like Oregon in the all blacks with the green accents. You had Ohio State in the all white with the silver hats. Like, it just looked so good on TV. And the football matched until Will Howard. What are you doing? The announcers had just hyped him up for being, you know, this big game quarterback at Kansas State, playing for a Big 12 title and all these bowl games and doing all this stuff, only to transfer to Ohio State and make a freshman error, right? Same thing Nico Amalavea did in the loss to Arkansas. With 10 seconds to go, they snap the ball. He dawdles around, and with 4 seconds on the clock, he runs down the middle of the field, needing to gain about 15 yards to be in field goal range, and he takes a knee and runs out of time. Like, you've got to have clock awareness as a 5th or 6th year senior and understand the situation. Buddy, you're not Jaden Daniels. You're not even Dylan Gabriel on the other side of the ball. Like, you're not going to cover 15 yards, get down and get a timeout in 4 seconds. I just hate it. You're not. And it cost them last night. Again, they got the love in the AP poll. Ohio State didn't fall far, and you shouldn't when you lose a 1-point game to the now number 2 team in the country. They're still a top 5 team, as they should be. What an incredible welcome to the Big Ten moment for the Oregon Ducks, who don't look now, have a ton of momentum heading into the colder months of football. I love to report on this. The LSU Ole Miss game, man. What a game last night. Overtime, we had free football. It was a back-and-forth game. Ole Miss leading the majority of the game. But Garrett Nussmeier and the Tigers would not go quietly, and Death Valley remains a place where dreams go to die, as Les Miles once said. I'm here for it as a Mississippi State fan. I love watching Ole Miss falter with expectations. A lot of distractions. It seems like there's always distractions around that program, whether it's Lane Kiffin taking another job, and I wouldn't be surprised now that he feels like he might have peaked at Ole Miss and might be looking harder at that Florida job when Billy Napier's gone, to the distractions around all the faking of injuries. I saw this stat last night as well. Through 3 games against Power 4 conference teams, Ole Miss has had 29 injury stoppages. At this point, we need to have a conversation. Is it truly a strength and conditioning issue? If so, we need to look at that, Coach Kiffin, and fix that. Or is it a little bit screwy? Because as Shane Beamer said, the timing is always impeccable, that after a big play or some momentum, an Ole Miss player gets hurt. That's all I'll say. I'll rest my case and see what the NCAA says. But what an incredible game it was. It was back and forth, and Garrett Nussmeier leading down with a game-tying touchdown and extra point with no time left on the clock, about 30 seconds to go. Jackson Dart moved the ball down the field, but we had overtime. Ole Miss kicks a field goal, and LSU finds a way to win on the first play from scrimmage when they got the ball. Great win for the Tigers, who don't look now, are quietly sitting at 5-1 and in the driver's seat, controlling their destiny heading forward as we get closer to an SEC championship game. Brian Kelly and the boys are figuring it out. Look, I got two teams that are heating up for you. Don't look now, but the Mississippi State Bulldogs are turning it around. Look, I get it. Rusty, they're 1-5. They're a bad football team. I'm not arguing that. We are. We're not good, but we're getting better. We have a true freshman quarterback who all he's done is gone 2 Texas and 2 Georgia, and they count for 450 yards passing in those 2 games, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions. I mean, that you can't get much better than a true freshman playing like that. He's 18 years old and playing good football. Mississippi State is averaging 24 points per game in SEC play. That is more than a lot of teams combined. Now, it's only been 3 SEC games. I get it. Florida, Texas, and Georgia being those 3 games, 2 top 5 teams, and we're averaging 24 points per game, which is more than Arkansas, Auburn, Missouri, Tennessee, Oklahoma, Kentucky, and Ole Miss. Don't look now, but we're figuring it out. A lot of football left to be played. Look, we're probably a 2-3 win team max, but it feels like we're going to find a way to upset somebody. A&M, Missouri, Tennessee, Ole Miss, maybe. But I think State figures it out and upsets somebody that they're not supposed to. Also, don't look now, but Vanderbilt's 4-2. Isn't that wild? 4-2. Mark Stoops, Kentucky's head coach, was talking about we need to keep up with Vandy's NIL to be competitive in the SEC. Like, what is that? What kind of a world are we living in? We're competing with Vanderbilt's NIL to be competitive in the SEC. Anchor down. Diego Pavia is a stud. There's a path to 7 wins for Vanderbilt with Ball State, Auburn, and South Carolina still to come on the schedule. Maybe they upset Tennessee and win 8. Either way, I'm here for it. Clark Lee is doing a bang-up job. As I said earlier, Tennessee's got to prove some stuff to me. They're definitely cooling off, even in a win after beating Florida. You've only got 1 loss, and it's Arkansas, but you still didn't look convincing against Florida. Heupel's got to get out of his own way, call a more aggressive game, move the ball down the field, turn Nico loose, and quit relying on a good defense to win you football games because it will get you beat. If you play not to get beat, you'll get beat every time, and they almost did in overtime last night. And again, the Ole Miss Rebels. I love to say that, man. I said on the 2 Buck Sports Show at the beginning of the year, it could go 1 of 2 ways. Yes, they can win 10, 11 games. They also might win 9. And I think my projection of 9 wins is going to be more realistic. Drew called me a hater. That's fine. But don't look now, but you're looking at 9 wins when you still have Georgia left on the schedule and you already got 2 losses. I think Ole Miss is still a very talented team, but I love that all off season I heard about the hype around Walter Nolan and Trey Harris and Juice Wells and Jackson Dart is back and Lane Kiffin's the best coach and NIL is winning and we're getting all these recruits and paying all these players to come in. Just to watch them play in the ReliaQuest Bowl on January the 1st just makes my soul so happy, especially when State's not good. Love to watch Ole Miss get beat. Hey, if you think I'm wrong, let me know. Hop in the comments. Shoot me a message. I'm on Twitter @Buckets_BCM. Give me a follow. Let me know where you think I was wrong. Otherwise, I'll see you back here next week. Hail State, baby.